Hello, this is The Art of Practice, and I am Allison DeMarco, the founder and artistic director of Sacred Music USA Competitions. If you've listened to my videos before, you know that I'm also a homeschool mom of 17 years, orchestral flutist and children's choir director. And I know that many of you find yourselves at home with your kids now. Maybe for the first time, teaching them and trying to do your best to school them at home. It's such a wonderful journey, and I hope that this helps you with their musical practice. You can have your children listen to this, or you can listen along with them so that you can better help them to practice. Even if you haven't had musical studies yourself, or even just a little bit of music understanding, you can use this to help your children to do their best at their practice time. And we know that proper practice is the key to success in music. So first of all, just thinking about your practice time. Do you practice a certain amount of time each day, or are you practicing relating to goals, or do you just sit down and practice when you have time each day? Do you sometimes feel as though you've hit a plateau and are not getting any better? This can be overcome with these proper practice techniques. Also, have you often felt as though you want to quit? Just so that you know, everybody feels this way at one time or another, and it's perfectly normal. Don't give up. The musicians feel this way oftentimes. There's multiple times you're going to feel this way because it's difficult. It's hard. Anything that's worth doing is going to be difficult at numerous times, and music is the same. So don't give up. Please don't give up. Practicing, it's fun as long as we're seeing improvement, but it can become tedious if you're not sure what to do or if you're not making progress. So I'm going to help you here so that you can hopefully continue to make progress and continue getting better at your craft. So good practice techniques come with great rewards. You'll be able to play something that you never thought was possible, or maybe it's simply playing pieces that you love with ease. But there are so many rewards to good practice. Now, everybody enjoys doing what's fun. When you first begin piano lessons, you were most likely very excited, and you love listening to music and imagined yourself playing all your favorite songs while you sit at the keys or played your specific instrument. At your first lesson, you're probably listening carefully and taking in every word that your teacher said. You most likely went home and practiced your assignments for the next week, and this process continued for the weeks after, until then it began to happen. You begin to become frustrated. It's very natural because it gets more difficult. It's hard. Playing the piano or your instrument is not easy. You are not able to play possibly as you had dreamed that you would, and week after week you're losing hope. It's just difficult, and it's not happening as fast as you had imagined it. So after a few more weeks, you decide that you want to quit. And why? Because hard things aren't that fun. Do you enjoy doing algebra? No, but there is a reward for not giving up on music. It's like learning a foreign language. And you just don't want to give up because success is just around the corner. And if you learn to practice the proper way, you will have success. That doesn't mean that you're not going to have days where you want to quit and it's frustrating and it's hard. But like I said before, everything that's worth doing is going to challenge you. No matter what area of life, whether it's music or any other part of your life, there are going to be many challenges. And when you overcome them, you are going to feel great that you stuck in there, that you did your best and you continued and you succeeded. Now, I said it was like learning a foreign language. And do you remember what it was like when you learned to read? If you're as old as I am, you really don't have any recollection of that. But having taught my kids to read, I can tell you, I can go through these steps with you because I do have memory of teaching them to read. So the first thing that you did was you learned your ABCs. And just like in music where you learn the names of the notes. So it's really a two-step process in music. So first of all, you are learning the note name on the staff. You have to recognize the name of the note on the staff. Now, the second part of this process is now you have to find that note on the piano or on your instrument. So, two things: naming the note on the staff, finding out where it's located on your instrument. So in reading, next you learn that every letter makes a sound, and then you started putting these sounds together to form words. And in music, you learn to start putting these notes together to form simple melodies. You may start with your right hand on piano and then your left hand, and eventually you're going to put these hands together. Now, at this point in reading, it's the most frustrating part, because in order to read, you must sound out every letter of every word. In reading, it takes forever. Let's just say you're reading a simple story. A child is learning to read, and they're sounding out the letters of the word dog. Maybe it's so frustrating to sound out each individual word that you forget what the sentence was about. You've definitely forgotten what the book is about, and it's becoming very tedious and very frustrating, and you want to quit because it's hard. And and the same thing happens in music. It's at this point where most people want to give up and quit, where you're looking at a melody and you're looking at something and you are absolutely having to look up and figure out the name of every note and where it is, the name of the note and where it is. And it's very tedious. However, think about when you learn to read. If you work on it every day, you're soon going to find out that you don't need to sound out every single letter, and that you can now recognize most words simply by sight. You can read for enjoyment. The same is true for music, and you're eventually going to be able to look at the note and recognize exactly where it is on the keyboard or your instrument right away. You can read music for your enjoyment, and this is going to open up the whole new world for you. It's a tough hill to climb, but you can do it. You can absolutely do it. It just takes persistence, and it is so worth it. So how do you practice properly, no matter what level of playing that you're on? Let me start off with a word, first of all, about music lessons. Now, those of you who are involved in sports are required to or come to a supervised practice, I would say most every day for most sports. If you're involved in swimming, for instance, at a school near me, that could be up to 2 hours per day of drills or rehearsal. And oftentimes these practices continue throughout the entire summer. So 2 hours of supervised practice a day, pretty much year round. Now, let's compare that to music. In music, we go to a 30 to 60 minute lesson every week, and maybe we practice 15 to 30 minutes per day, and we're going to expect great success. But it just doesn't work. It's incredibly difficult to achieve success under these circumstances. So my students began coming 5 days a week for the first month. Now, the reason that they do that is because I want to give them supervised practice for that first month. I want them to start to understand what it is that they're supposed to do when they go home and they begin practicing on their own. I'm practicing with them for that month, and what we're doing is we're ingraining in the steps. They're learning. If they've done something wrong, they know it. They know how to fix it. If something's not working, they're going to learn from the supervised practice. They're going to learn what they're doing wrong and how to fix it and overcome problems that would normally be just a frustration. So after the first month, we taper off to 2 to 3 days per week for the first year. And it's only after they've mastered this art of practice that we decrease to 1 lesson per week. So what is this practice technique? Well, it's so simple, you're not even going to believe it. All right, so first thing, does this sound familiar? You've played a passage and you're having trouble with it. You're having difficulty with it. You make a mistake, you play it again, you make another mistake, you play it again, make another mistake, and then you get it right and you think, aha, I've got it now. But guess what? You've played it wrong so many times, but you've only played it right once. So, do you think your brain's going to remember the correct one? Most likely not, because the one that's ingrained into your fingers and into your mind is the incorrect way of playing. So what we're going to do is we're going to learn that we're going to slow things down. We have to understand how your brain takes in information. Playing music is very difficult on many different levels. So when you practice, it's important that you're never going to practice or play your piece or your passage faster than you can play it correctly. Now, I know how tempting it is to go somewhere and to play your piece as fast as you can. When you want to play it for your friends or your family, you just want to race through it and say, woohoo, I've got this. It's so fast. But keep in mind, it's more important to play correctly than it is to play quickly. And playing too fast, too soon can destroy all the work that you do. So the first thing we're going to do is what I call setting a foundation tempo. This is going to be a tempo where you can play your passage, and I recommend short passages, no more than about 4 measures long. If you're a beginner, it could be, depending on the difficulty of the piece, it could even be a measure. It could be hands apart or hands together. If it's very difficult, you may want to do this hands apart. But you want to set a foundation tempo. You're going to find the passage that needs work and turn your metronome on. You can get a metronome on your you can get it on your app store. You can get it you can get metronomes anywhere for free online. So first thing I want you to do is to find a tempo that you can play this passage correctly. Now, did you make a mistake? If so, and remember, mistakes can be note mistakes, rhythm mistakes, anything that possibly is on the music. Is it loud? Is it soft? Are the notes short? Are they connected? Look at every detail on the page and add that into what makes this passage correct. So if you make a mistake at all, take your tempo down by 5 beats per minute. Now, did you make another note or rhythm mistake? Take it down another 5 beats per minute and continue this process until you arrive at that tempo that you can play the passage perfectly. Right notes, right rhythm, anything else on the page. This is your foundation tempo. Make a note of it. You might want to write it on your page. So at this point, we are going to play the Tenpenny Game. And the goal of this penny game, very simple game, easy game. But what it's going to do is it's going to cement this passage played correctly into your mind. We're going to put 10 pennies on your piano and turn your metronome on to your foundation tempo that you have established. So now that we know you can play it at this tempo, we're going to begin cementing this into place. Now keep in mind, if at any point during this game you're having multiple times that you're having frustration, just slow it down, 5 beats per minute. So if you play the passage correctly, write notes, rhythm, anything else on the page, give yourself a penny, move it over to form another pile. If you make a mistake, then you play it again correctly, move over another penny. The object is to get all 10 pennies into a new pile. So if you make a mistake, no matter how small it is, put a penny back and continue this until you've earned all 10 pennies. So at this point, you will have played it right more times than you played it wrong, and you're going to have a better chance of your mind remembering it the correct way. Now remember, the harder you are on yourself, the more thoroughly you're going to know this. You don't cheat yourself and say, well, I got this mostly right, I'm going to give myself the penny. No. Be very hard on yourself and say, no, it has to be, I have to get all the details in so that your brain remembers it exactly as it's supposed to be. Now, you can literally play anything with this method practically, no matter how difficult. You separate your hands, you take it slowly. It's that, have you heard the joke of how do you eat an elephant 1 bite at a time? Well, this is kind of the equivalent of that for music. So you're going to say, how can I play this passage? Small bits and pieces taken in very slowly. So let's make it a little more difficult now that you know your passage better. We can, number one, we can eliminate one of your senses. Let's start by practicing. You can now practice maybe with your eyes closed. Now, this will heighten your other senses when you do this. So close your eyes and just try to play. Just feel the keys under your fingers. And listen, really listen to the piece, listen to the passage, and you're gonna find that you hear more things with your eyes closed. Another way, by the way, on the penny game, what you can do is you can practice 5 pennies looking at your music, 5 pennies looking away, or if you need to memorize, or if you like to memorize your piece. So shutting your eyes and playing the passage and just listening. Just listen to what's going on, and you're going to hear so much more. The other thing is, if you're preparing for a recital or a competition, try this. Eliminate your sense of hearing. Now, you need to be pretty confident on your piece before you try this. And this is not really for a small passage, but more for when you have the entire piece learned. But you might try eliminating your sense of hearing and practice on a keyboard or organ. Turn the sound off. And you should instinctively know when you make a note mistake. This is very interesting way to practice, and it will really help you, again, to eliminate one of your senses. Now, when you finish this whole thing with the pennies, you're going to need to speed your piece up. So what you're going to do is you're going to speed up no more than 5 beats per minute. So you're going to want to say, okay, I'm at this tempo. What I do, I've done with my daughter over the years and other students, is I say, okay, we're going to speed up 5 beats per minute. If you get it right, we keep going. Another 5 beats per minute. You get everything right, another 5 beats per minute. Now let's just say you make a mistake on this level. Then we go back and we do 5 pennies at that tempo that we just made the mistake on. Then we continue up 5 beats per minute. You get it right. Up 5 more beats per minute. You get it right. So you get the idea. But anyway, all of this to say that when you use a process like this, when you have a process in place, you can play pretty much anything. Your brain is it's very powerful, more than we can imagine. God made you with so many complex ways that your brain can operate and translate these little dots on the page to such beautiful music. He made you to glorify Him, and He gave you the talent and the tools to do it well. And when we practice, it's easy to get caught up in all the details, and it's easy to forget what the big picture is like and why it's important to do our very best. It's not just about the lesson every week that you're preparing for. Those are very important. But it's not just about that. It's bigger than that. It's bigger than your end of the year recital. It's bigger than going to a competition. It's bigger than anything. It is actually preparing yourself to be used by God in a mighty way to draw others unto Himself. It's about taking your talent to the next level, about being used by the King of Kings to create an atmosphere of worship. God can give your playing or your voice the power to literally open the hearts and minds of those who don't know Him as Lord and Savior. He can use you and your talent to give comfort to people who are suffering, or to bring joy to those who might feel burdened. So, sharpen your skills and be ready for the task that God has prepared for you. Ask the Holy Spirit to play through you, to breathe or to sing through you, because you are His instrument, and He can work mighty things through you.